This is not a tire pump. And the biggest mistake I've seen people make when they buy a Sur Ron, they don't properly set up their suspension. First thing you want to do is take your shock pump and check the air pressure inside your forks. Unscrew this cap at the bottom of your fork. Screw in the shock pump. Proper range for the stock Sur Ron forks is somewhere between 100 and 150 PSI. The higher the PSI, the stiffer the fork. The Sur Rons come from the factory underinflated because they've been stored for a long time. You're gonna want to check the fork's pressure at least once a month if you're riding this thing a lot. I fill mine right to 150, and when I pull it off, it should give me right about 140. So if you need the maximum amount of stiffness, fill it to 160 to give you 150. What I like about this shock pump too is it has this purge valve that lets me take air out if I accidentally overfill it, just like that. All right, next thing I'm doing is setting the sag. What I want to do is get the bike up, get this as extended as possible, set it down gently so the forks don't move. So these forks have like this rubber ring, and this is what I'm going to use to help me measure the distance from about right here, this bottom part, to the bottom of that O-ring. And for me, it's right at 9 inches. Now I'm going to sit on the bike, give it a nice little pump like this. You don't want to like over pump it. Then you want to come back up, get that bike back on the stand, then measure from the bottom of the O-ring to this again. 7.5. Way to do the math is divide the 7.5 by 9. That gives me 0.83, which gives me 17% of sag. In the manual, it says you want to be between 15 and 25%. I'm closer to the 15%, which means I have a really stiff setup. And take note that I have the preload adjusted all the way out. So at this point, I really don't need to add preload because I have enough air in there to make the fork stiff as possible for my weight. If you're at the maximum PSI and you're over 25% in sag, just add more preload by turning it in the positive direction. The next thing to consider with the fork is the rebound. I currently have the rebound set to the most negative direction. Now notice what the fork is doing when I compress it with the rebound all the way out. Comes back pretty fast. Now I'm going to set the rebound to the max. Watch how slowly it returns. Compression is all about feeling. Find a setting that you like. I like it somewhere in the middle. The rear shock is actually pretty easy as well. To set your sag, you're going to want to loosen the preload adjuster all the way out, so that way the spring has no tension. And it helps to have gloves, but get it hand tight just so the spring doesn't move freely. So the bike is on the stand. There's no pressure from the swing arm, the tires, to the shock. I'm gonna put a little mark right here, and then I'll put a little mark right here. Take my measurements, 16. Sit on the bike again. That one was at 15, so the rear end is giving me about 7%, which is on the stiff side for my weight. The shock will also be marked with a spring rate. This is 450 pounds per inch. All right, so now I'm gonna show you the rebound adjuster, which sits right at the top of the fork. I have it set at the maximum rebound, and watch what happens. Very stiff. Now I'm gonna take that all the way out. Super bouncy. Again, somewhere in the middle. Basically what you're looking for is a happy medium. Go out, tweak the settings a little bit, see how it feels until it gets worse, then dial it back. If you're looking for $3,000 worth of performance from $800 suspension, not even I can help, stupid.